Alright, so I was kind of banking on my favorite YouTube film critics to do this for me so I wouldn't have to think for myself, but I highly doubt they will at this point because, well, it's gotten too much clout and everybody's already bored of it by now. Oh, you know, everybody except for the content creators that imitate everything they see trending. So that's sort of where I come in. I like to complain a lot, but I don't really think I'm a good film critic or anything, so when you disagree with everything that comes out of my mouth, be sure to tell me in the comments or on my Twitter or something, I don't know. So Bird Box was released on Netflix on December 13th, 2018 with a budget of $19.8 million unmarked US dollars. For context, another thriller that came out in 2018 was A Quiet Place, which had a budget of $17 million. Halloween came out too, but that's more of a slasher than a thriller, although if you really ask me, there wasn't that much slashing. It was enough for me, at least. Its budget was like 3,000% of the original. I don't know, maybe I'm asking too much. But anyways, I didn't really think either of those films were really that interesting. They were better than Bird Box, but they were kind of forgettable, really, so it's not really saying much. So, before I go ahead and tear this film gently, because I don't really think that was that harsh. Here's what I liked. The child acting. If you've seen the film, you're probably thinking, what's this dumb prick talking about? Boy and girl sat there and got dragged by Sandra Bullock. Microsoft P is so dumb. This channel is stupid and I hate it. It's so dumb. This is where I say, you are absolutely right. And the second thing I liked was that part right before Sandra Bullock notices the demons are in the US. That's really only because I had an actual reaction to the woman smashing her head in the window. Oh god, I wish that were me. I don't really understand why Bird Box had a bigger budget than A Quiet Place. The latter had actual visible creatures in it doing things. Maybe they saved money on the lack of shoes. Anyway, here's the criticism part. I want to break this up into 4 categories: how it looks, how it sounds, and the plot, themes, and symbolism, or whatever. They're not in a particular order. So there weren't any scenes in particular I liked looking at. Nothing was really visually brilliant. It was all pretty basic looking, or even too dark. The amount of shrubbery and wilderness was overwhelming to some people, but I'm kind of a sucker for that sort of thing, so I enjoyed it. The house everyone was staying at reminded me of the house in that movie where you're not allowed to look at each other. That's not it. That's not how it goes. That movie, you know that movie where you can't stop looking at each other or somebody's gonna disappear. I clearly don't remember anything from that movie because I didn't like it. I think Bobby Flay shot himself or something. Yeah. Anyway, the color scheme was really great. And I get there was like a tone they were trying to convey that was like really moody and dark and mysterious. And you can't trust anybody or whatever. But like, everything kind of looked the same because of that. Everything but the bandanas, and that was not very interesting. Other than that, kind of looked like a Great Depression flick. They weren't really memorable, so they probably weren't even that good. There were no original plot elements, like at all. Sandra Bullock plays a really edgy, really unadjusted, really pregnant artist who can't really cope with the idea that she's pregnant, which I don't really understand because she looks like 8 months in. Basically, there's a bunch of exposition dialogue between her and her sister, who dies probably like 10 minutes later, and it's revealed that there's some kind of like epidemic causing people in other countries to commit mass suicide. And mysteriously, nobody knows what it is until America gets it, and the main characters, of course, figured out in 10 seconds. The next chunk of the film takes place in the cabin house thing, with a bunch of characters you're not really given enough time to like. For example, Machine Gun Kelly, police lady, seemingly delusional grocery store clerk, hyper-attractive black male, Sandra Bullock, useless old woman, token gay Asian man, off-putting yet always right. You get it, because he's like, he's supposed to be like a Trump supporter. You're not supposed to like him because he's, okay, the bald man, and eventually Olympia, who's also pregnant. Hooray. Their dialogue was really robotic and formulaic. Nobody really had chemistry, which is really strange because there were like relationships, like romantic relationships, where you kind of need chemistry for that to work. Anyway, there wasn't enough time allotted for audiences to become attached to the characters, so it didn't really work. They sucked. You know what, considering what they were given, I don't think the actors did too poorly, besides Machine Gun Kelly. I didn't really care for the cop either, to be honest. Okay, back to the plot. Most of the events following them getting stuck in the house either involve a death, the pregnancy of Olympia and Sandra Bullock. I don't know what her character name is. Or a combination of the two. The jump cuts between the events from the past and the current boat on the river thing, it's kind of annoying. I'm not really sure why I'm that offended by it, because I don't really care about either part, but I was kind of offended by it. Time travels and everyone's dead except for a hyper-attractive black man, whose name is Tom, and Sandra Bullock, and the babies, which are now toddlers, or like 5 or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't feel like watching the film again to find out. Sandra Bullock is really mean to the kids, but Tom is trying to be a good person, telling them stories and spending time with them. I think I may have smiled watching this part. Maybe. Possibly. I don't remember. They start arguing after because she says they're giving the kids false hope or something. The sequence happens fairly quickly, but it then comes up again later, so make sure you remember that part, that specific thing. Yeah. Anyway, they figure out they can get to safety if they go on this really intricate path that involves a river and a boat, so they pack the kids up and go. A whole bunch of stuff happens, and they get to a Rest Point house where they find strawberry Pop-Tarts, and everyone is smiling and eating, including Sandra Bullock. So I think it's like supposed to symbolize or represent that she's understanding why it's wrong for her to crush her kids' dreams about having a good life. Then a whole bunch of crazy people come in to raid the house, and they end up ambushing Tom, so the other 3 run away. Eventually, we're caught up to the future part, and Sandra is telling the kids that one of them has to look out the boat to navigate, which would imply death, and then she implies she wants Girl to look, because she doesn't like Girl. And then she changes her mind after a flashback of Olympia and decides to navigate blind. And they all almost die. Finally, they get to the forest near the safe haven, and of course Sandra Bullock falls over and loses the kids. Then they almost get tricked, and she has to convince them to come with her so they can experience all the cool things from Tom's story. If I hadn't been making assumptions earlier with the Pop-Tart scene, I would have thought this change of heart came out of nowhere because her arc is so unclear. The kids come with her, and for some reason the demons turn into like the wind, and they get to the safe place, and that's the end of the movie. So, not great. I think the message is supposed to be, it's important to have hope. And that kind of, I don't know, that sounds like a really dumb baby movie theme for stupid, dumb babies. Sort of like My Little Pony, A Very Minty Christmas or something. Yeah, so when I finally finished watching Bird Up, I had already decided I didn't like it. There wasn't really anything I took away from it, nothing iconic besides the bandanas, which are kind of ordinary items. I think if it got the same amount of attention from social media as most Netflix original films do, like Christmas Chronicles, we wouldn't have had anybody out here wearing dumb masks and running into traffic or anything. Stack your paper though, I guess, I don't know. I just wish my favorite channels did this review earlier so I personally wouldn't have had to give it more publicity. Good thing the hype is dead. Good night.
I've ruined Christmas for everybody!